why they're having to do what they're doing. I'm all they have. Right now, they have not been able to rule anyone out. I don't think I'm any more of a suspect than anyone in this case right now.
It's very painful to know that anyone would think that either of us had anything to do with this abduction of our children. But me and my wife know the truth.
On October 25, 1994, Susan Smith, an ordinary young mother, made a report that no parent hopes to ever make. Her sons were nowhere to be found. According to her, she had been on her way out with her boys when her vehicle got carjacked by a black man. Apparently, said black man drove away with both her sons in the car. And for 9 days after that, she continued to appeal to whoever was listening to help her find her sons and bring them back home safely.
Was there anything about the demeanor of the man that gives you concern? No, in fact, when he made me get out of the car, I tried to get my children. I seen this bathing, please let me take them. And he said no, he didn't have time because they were in car seats and it was going to take time for me to get them out of the car seat. And ladies told me, he said, but I won't hurt them. And he just took off. Me had a gun, and my big thing is they were screaming, hollering, crying, and I'm just scared that he just lost his patience or something, Yeah, I don't know. All I'm doing is just praying and just keeping my faith that they're going to be okay.
As you would expect, that story pulled at everyone's heartstrings. A young mother had just lost all of her kids, and it felt like there was nothing she could do to get them back. Searches were started all over Union, South Carolina, where the unfortunate incident happened, as everyone hoped that nothing terrible had been done to the boys up till that point. However, the whole thing took a sinister turn soon after. On November 3rd, 1994, exactly 9 days after she made the first appeal, Susan Smith confessed to the killing of her boys. How? She left her sons strapped into their car seats and then let her car roll into the John D. Long Lake, drowning them. In her confession, she claimed that she had no motive, that she just was not in the right frame of mind when she did what she did.
Billy got to turn his light up. There will be no questions answered after the statement. The statement is it. Move that light. Susan Smith has been arrested and will be charged with 2 counts of murder in connection with the deaths of her children, Michael, 3, and Alexander, 14 months. The vehicle, a 1990 Mazda, driven by Smith, was located late Thursday afternoon in Lake John D. Long near Union. 2 bodies that were found in the vehicle's backseat. Identities are pending an autopsy. And charges against Smith will be signed by Union County Sheriff Howard Wells. The 16th Circuit Solicitor Thomas Pope said Thursday a bond hearing will be held at 10 a.m. at the Moss Justice Center in York before Circuit Judge Henry Floyd. Smith is incarcerated at an undisclosed location. Did she confess? Did she tell you where the car was, Sheriff?
However, investigators do indeed believe that she had some kind of motive, and they had started suspecting her of foul play really early on in the investigation. Initially, they just thought that she had an idea of where the boys were, but she was keeping it a secret for some reason, maybe even hoping that they were still alive. So they intensified the search, checking nearby lakes and ponds, which eventually led them to the John D. Long Lake where the car, with the boys in it, was found. A recreation of the incident by investigators showed that it must have taken about 6 excruciating minutes for the car to dip below the water surface. The boys were found still in their car seats. Before the boys were found, though, about 2 days after they had been reported missing, investigators decided to subject Susan Smith and her on-again, off-again husband to a polygraph test. And this is when Susan became a solid suspect. Under the polygraph test, she mentioned something about the traffic light turning red, causing her to stop at the intersection, which was supposedly when she was carjacked. This raised red flags because in an earlier statement, she mentioned that she didn't see any other cars when the carjacking happened. But if there were no cars around, the traffic light wouldn't have turned red. So yay, red flag. With this suspicion hanging over her and the case gaining as much traction as it had, it would make sense that Susan crumpled under pressure, leading to her confession. As was mentioned earlier, Susan added that she had no motive and was just not in the right mind when she did what she did. But investigators suspect that it might have been her way to hold on to or repair a relationship with Tom Findlay, a local wealthy businessman. Why? Just so happens that prior to the murders, Findlay had sent her a letter telling her that he didn't want children and wanted to end the relationship. If this was her reasoning, one would have thought that she would have tried to send the kids to her ex-husband or something. But she opted for a crazy solution. So even though there seemed to be a motive, it's not far-fetched that her defense counsel, David Bruck and Judy Clark, decided to go the mental health route. In their opening statement, they tried to paint a picture of Susan's mental illness, talking about how she had driven to the lake to kill herself instead. But her body willed itself out of the car. This seemed like a solid enough defense, especially for people who knew Susan's backstory. Her home life was far from the best. Her father died by suicide when she was just 6, and at 13 she unsuccessfully tried to do the same. As if that was not bad enough, her mother remarried Beverly C. Russell Jr., who, it was later revealed, molested Susan for a large part of her teenage years. In fact, Susan and Russell continued to have sexual relations up until 6 months before the murder. After graduating high school, Susan tried once again to commit suicide, and it was because a married man that she was having an affair with had decided to end things. Even her actual marriage was rocky. Both parties accused the other of cheating multiple times, and they separated so many times that it's always difficult to ascertain the state of their relationship. So, there's probably some merit to the defense of mental instability. Plus, the defense psychiatrist diagnosed her with dependent personality disorder and major depression. However, the prosecuting counsel wasn't having any of it. They argued that Susan was trying to start things fresh, hence her decision to do away with her children. And the very fact that Susan had tried to do something drastic after a relationship ended lent credence to their argument. At the end of the day, the trial didn't take as long as some might have expected. In just 2.5 hours, Susan was found guilty of murdering both her sons. The lead prosecutor for the case, Tommy Pope, wanted the death penalty, but the jury voted against it. And Susan Smith ended up getting 2 concurrent life in prison sentences with the option of parole after 30 years. Well, it's been 30 years since all of that happened, which means that Susan is now eligible for parole. The 53-year-old has a hearing on November 20th, 2024. But considering that parole in South Carolina is only granted about 8% of the time, with even less of a likelihood if it's the inmate's first appearance, people are not expecting much. Still, Susan is somewhat of a public figure at this point, so who really knows how things will go? However, her time in prison doesn't exactly provide grounds for her release on parole, where it would have been expected that she would spend her time in prison being remorseful and missing her kids. She was really just living it up. She's been sleeping with guards, drawing as much attention as she can to herself, and even developing a roster of sugar daddies that can't wait or are eagerly wasting for her to get out. What's more, she actually tried to get her sentence overturned. While she was not allowed to grant broadcast interviews, she wrote to reporters, true crime lovers, and even potential suitors. She tried to get some of these people to help her with her appeal on the basis that her ex-husband had been abusing her. Well, authorities have found nothing to corroborate that story. So, nobody is taking that seriously. As things stand, both Tommy Pope, the lead prosecutor, and David Smith, Susan's ex-husband, have vowed to do everything in their power to make sure that Susan is not granted parole. But, of course, neither Susan nor her defense counsel will take any of this lying down. Guess we'll have to wait and see what happens on the 20th of November. Meanwhile, what do you think about Susan's motives? Also, do you think she has served her time and should be granted parole? Share your thoughts in the comments section below. If you enjoyed this video, smash that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on your notification bell so that you won't miss an update. Thanks for watching True Crimes of the Dirty South.